Made in America, Immigrant Students in Alt Public School, A Story of the Great Pressure on Ethnic Identity. Book review by Ying Chen. Summary and advocate content. Laurie Olson is an education expert for English learners and the head of the Supporto Early Education Language Model for the third grade. In Laurie Olson's Made in America book, it mainly tells the story of how immigrant students learn to become Americans at Madison City High School in California and face the tremendous pressure of accepting racial identity. The story states the increasingly multicultural situation in the community, and the promise of diversity is only superficial. How much must or can change when a person leaves his country of origin and tries to become the mainstream of American society? Parents described their fear of their children integrating into American culture. Students who do not speak English are excluded from the learning and contact with classmates. Students are classified by skin color and class to prepare for their complete different future. Although most educators in high school believed in integration, fairness, and that all students can freely participate in school activities and have equal opportunities. However, they did not see the crisis of the racial discrimination rising from the active exclusion and the classification process in school planning and practice. The story of this high school reviews the continuation of an unequal society, but it also shows the possibility of educational change and a very slow but determined process of change. Laurie also proposed that to understand the complexity of immigration and Americanization, one must try to combine racial and economic theory with reproduction and resistance. I also think it is necessary to advocate the initiation of the renegotiation for the purpose of the school education as a democratization purpose and the strategy to resolve inclusiveness in society, create opportunity and a level playing field. Segregated campus, separation and invisibility. Madison is a very diverse and mixed place. Races do have their own area to stay away from other races. Some segregation plates students' cafeteria. Why do Mexican students hang in hall C and why do Caucasian students hang in hall A? Why are the African American students hanging hall B? Those who choose to mix will do so or stay away relatively quiet in school. This reminds me of Tato's book, Why Are All Black Children Sitting in the Cafeteria? The racial mixed middle school describing. In Madison, you often see Native American students sitting silently, without expressing any opinions, but great anger at affirmative action, and often expressing their discriminatory emotions. This school doesn't even have money to spend on us, but it created racism against each other. Alfred said. Stop talking. You know, we didn't get any real learning at all because the school is too poor, Jeff said. These two Caucasians condemned the existence of the racial clubs in school, in which race is the main basis of the campus club organization, and insisted that they should be allowed to own a European and American club, but they have no interest in actually organizing clubs. Several girls got together to talk about transition from elementary school to middle school and the lessons of the racialization. One talked in tears about her best friend Rose in elementary school. I'm glad we are going to the same middle school. But something happened there. She is an African American, and I'm a Caucasian. In contrast, when those Chinese children come here, all they did was study. All they have to do is to check the AP course. Asians are more usually angry because of being expelled, but they do not feel unfair. These groups are seen as doing well academically because they study very hard. So rewards are often seen as a privilege they deserve. The Latins believe that they can maintain their independence through race. In this system, it must conform to the American racial classification and being given different racial and non-English language identities and groupings in order to be considered part of the school. Learning English may lose to your mother tongue. ESL courses are the most troublesome parts of Madison High School. In class, the English spoken is classroom English. Many new immigrant students attend class in Aslam classes and have little interaction with English-speaking classmates. The immigrants in the school were ridiculed for their incorrect English and heavy accent. A Chinese immigrant explained that Americans laughed at him because the way he spoke English was different, and the American could not understand him. Miss O'Malley explained that without English proficiency, new immigrants could only rely on the help of the friends who can speak their language to find a place where they can use English safely. In fact, Madison does not have native bilingual classes, only ESL classes, but his neighbor school, the Newcomer School, provides a space where they can sometimes speak in their native language. In terms of the social interaction, the native dialect will be the language of choices. In addition, the stereotype of American-born students and teachers that immigrants will crowd out local students also indirectly leads to the language barriers. For example, some wrong methods of education make immigrant students feel ashamed of their mother tongue. A teacher said, "Don't speak Spanish here. We are not in Mexico. Otherwise, it will be impolite to speak Spanish." For new immigrants from Mexico and Central America, becoming American means that they must first switch from their native English. Madison High School does offer Spanish courses for those who wish to develop literacy skills in their native language. But its existence is only for courses of the lab, limited English proficient students. From the project and system point of view, the mother tongue is ignored. I realize that no matter how hard immigrant students study the Native American language, The invisible racial classification is always like an invisible label affixed to them. Social hierarchy, the cry of immigrant students. Accepting American culture and speak English is not enough to be accepted as American. Sometimes they have to give up one's identity rights and the dream of the immigrants. Young Hindus and Muslim women face traditional arranged marriages. They will be hurriedly arranged by their parents to marry a man she has never met. The sudden marriage of Sona and Kareem made others feel uneasy, but most people still believe that their parents won't let them marry until they graduate from high school. On TV, they saw women in various occupations, but there was no sign of preparation or career path. Television also failed to make them understand the decision-making process that weighs marriage, family, relationship, culture issues, and careers. In addition, diversify equal educational opportunities have not solved the real needs of lab students to become Americans. Lab students may have math but no science, or science but no math. The bilingual project is fully supported by external funds. There was no mother tongue reference materials in classroom. Individual teachers do try to solve this problem by buying their own books and seeking help on their own. I think the reform of immigration education is a battle challenge that involves adults who are responsible for implementing academic programs in school and must be taken seriously. Advocates protect the rights of immigrant children. The rights of immigrant students to equal access to education is based on the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which stipulates that public school cannot refuse education on the basis of the race and the nationality. However, in many cases, schools do not have enough federal funds and are not willing to spend their own money to help immigrant education programs. According to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, no one shall be discriminated against on the basis of race, color, or nationality. Schools must take active measures. The state is also working harder to enforce it. But there are still local parents suing schools for not having specialized English courses to help them learning English. For example, bilingual advocates fail in the civic education opportunities and the cultural diversity issues of minority language children at Madison High School. I think the mission of immigration education reform is not to assimilate immigrants, but to respect and tolerate cultural diversity. Under the protection of the laws, governments, and community groups, gathering immigrants into larger families is a major mission for the United States to win the future in a globalized economy. Conclusion and questions. Looking at the immigration teaching model of Madison High School, I think pure English teaching policy is not in line with the national conditions of the United States. This is also disrespectful for minority language and cultures. To a certain extent, it has not promoted the educational development of ethnic minority students. On the contrary, it increased the difference between groups and increased exclusion. Immigrant students are forced to adapt to the narrow restrictions allowed by the American racial system and get rid of their language and national identity as the price of becoming Americans. I believe that the task of the educator is to transform the school into an institution of equal opportunity and a place that supports diversity. I agree with some education advocates broken the silence of the communication and promote academic exchanges, culture exchange, community life, and business exchange between different ethnic language, so as to promote students' understanding of the current national structure of the United States is a key educational reform. I think that is only one mixture of the color of equal education, and that is respect and love. Question to think. What kind of culture diversity interactive activities are beneficial to the best development of the society? Multilingual reading promotion activities, artistic and intellectual activities. What are some examples of educated policymakers and business people supporting the multicultural development of schools? Value education, building a system for cultivating creativity, sustainable education game. What are your examples of the mutual assistance with new immigrant students in your life? Cross-border food culture and tourism interaction.